So with all these calls of defunding the police and getting rid of the police, which incidentally, in my personal opinion, is a really bad idea, because what, you're trading one devil for another devil? I mean, come on now. Human beings are human beings are human beings. You might have a honeymoon period in which everybody's on their prim and proper, but after that, whoever takes over the police's position is going to be just as bad, if not worse. It's a human thing. Something that a certain political party that used to be in Germany right around the mid-1930s used to do when they captured another certain demographic of people and put them in certain places where they didn't want to be and couldn't willingly leave, was they would take some of these individuals that were their unwilling guests and they would make them guards. And they would be some of the worst guards because you give them power and they will corrupt. It's just the way it is. But let's read this and I'll kind of give my points as we go through. What would it mean to defund the police? These cities offer ideas. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, but none of these cities that they represent have actually defunded the police. The police are there. They're just talking about community programs that are backed up by the police. If you defund the police, you don't have that police backup. As we read this, remember, that's a huge, huge caveat here. All right, from NBC News by John Shoup. In 2017, when a shortage of inpatient psychiatric beds in Dallas was driving up the number of 911 calls, overwhelming emergency rooms, and crowding jails with mentally ill people, the city decided to try something different. Okay, but dealing with mentally ill people like that who are calling in and trying to get help is a far cry from dealing with people with guns who are trying to mug and murder and rob and things like that. Oops, I said the words I shouldn't have said. This video is going to get hit. Well, fuck. May as well be normal now. It put an officer, a paramedic, and a social worker in every car responding to mental health calls in the city's troubled South Central region. An attempt to get people the help they needed without an arrest or violent confrontation. The pilot program, Right Care, led to a drop in arrests in the area. But you still had a cop in the car. You still had somebody who had authority, who had a weapon to keep everybody safe. If you defund the police, then you're going to have a paramedic and a social worker without a cop there. And what's the bad guy going to see? A paramedic and a social worker. Two people who are unarmed and they're going to... No. There are drastic differences in this. They're comparing apples and oranges. This is almost a non-comparison. You still had police in the program. Defunding the police means you get rid of the police. You're not having a paramedic and a social worker go deal with violent people. You're having an officer and a paramedic and a social worker go, and I'll guarantee you the officer is the one who takes care of things when things get violent. The paramedic and the social worker probably step back. I guarantee you it's probably a program where the officer comes up first to verify that there's not a dangerous situation, then the social worker and paramedic arrive. Right Care is one of several programs across the country drawing the attention of activists. Yes, because activists are looking for anything to fit the narrative. Any evidence that they find, they are going to make it fit the narrative. This is a non-comparison already. I'm telling you, this is a non-comparison. The minute that an officer is involved in any of these programs that they mention, it's a non-comparison. Because defunding the police is getting rid of the police. These programs here still have police involvement. Let's continue. To end law enforcement's systematic abuse of black Americans. It's not systematic abuse of black Americans. It's abuse of Americans, and it's not systematic. Out of 3 million yearly cases average in New York, there's a very, very small percentage. I don't remember what it was. Something like 1,300 complaints. That's not bad. Or maybe it was 13,000, even still, out of 1 million confrontations between officers and other people during the day, during the year in New York. Even if it was as high as 13,000, but I don't think it was. I think it was a bit lower. That's still not bad. And it's not just against black Americans, it's Americans. Why are we so focused? One-sided, 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 one-sided. BLM, Black Lives Matter, is starting to become like a certain Middle East religion, where we are not allowed to criticize it in any way, shape, or form, lest you face mob justice. Nothing is above criticism, people. Criticize away. That's your right. That's your freedom. And in some cases, that's your duty. Imagine if we couldn't criticize anything. Then bad ideas take over. And bad ideas are taken over with BLM, with them forcibly taking over businesses and things like that. But that's a whole nother story. In the aftermath of George Floyd's death at the hands of Minneapolis police last month, protesters in many cities have said they are fed up with trying to change police behavior and are instead advancing a more radical idea: to defund the police. But you're trading one devil for another devil. Whoever you put in power is going to wind up in the same spot. You're going to give who? Who are you going to give the power to? Where are the lines going to be drawn? What? Community armed response individuals? Okay. With arrest powers? That's kind of scary. That's quite scary. And then what about the community next door? Who polices the community next door? Come on now. This is just opening a can of worms none of us wants. By cutting their budgets and offloading police functions to other municipal departments or community budgets. Yes, that's hog-tie the cops, not let them do shit. But yet, when someone hurts you or someone breaks into your house, you're going to want to call the cops. You're just going to want to call the cops. I mean, come on now. Taken literally, calls to defund police departments conjure images of empty precinct stations and the proliferation of citizen patrols. And it will, if you defund the police to a point where they cannot operate. And right now, police morale is so down, I don't even know if you'd be able to find enough police to fill the what are you going to do? In a huge city, 100 cops? It's nowhere near enough cops. Yes, we know, defund doesn't mean getting rid of all the cops. But it means defunding them to where they can't do their job. But if the ideas behind the movement take hold, their implementation may look less like the Minneapolis City Council's vote to disband its police department, which is so stupid. So stupid. You're going to disband the police department. Criminal heyday. Criminal heyday. Murders are already up in Minneapolis by 189% when I saw it last. Probably more by now. So what the hell? Because criminals know. Criminals aren't stupid. They are opportunistic, and they see an opportunity in Minneapolis. And instead resemble more moderate experiments already underway in cities and towns around the country. But they still include officers in the programs. They still include officers in the program. What are you going to do? Arm the paramedics and the social workers too? That includes projects like Right Care that don't reject police or seek to take away their entire budget, but rather aim to decrease their role in situations that are not dangerous, while allowing medical and social workers to take the lead. Okay, and that's going to be fine until paramedics and social workers, we start hearing stories about the paramedics and the social workers getting attacked because they told the cops to back off, and, you know, it's going to happen. Human nature, people. Human nature. You can't stop it. It just is what it is. There's no magic switch to turn off, and boom, there's no police department. Well, according to Minnesota, there is. Said Alex Vitale, a sociology professor at Brooklyn College, whose 2017 book, The End of Policing, has become a manifesto for protesters and police reform advocates. Yeah, well, reform, absolutely, I'm on board. Reform 100%. Don't use chokeholds, yes. Don't put your weight on someone's neck, yes. There are certain things you should not do, yes. Defund the police, no. No. You're going to create a vacuum. You're going to create a situation. It's bad. It's bad all the way around. Anyways, the rest of this article is really quite a lot of dribble. But I want to address something here real quick as well while I've got your attention. To the Black Lives Matter people, the ones that are taking over the hotels and calling them a sanctuary and taking over the police precincts and things, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're displaying? And why is it that we are not allowed to criticize you? Why is it Black Lives Matter movement people are we not allowed to look at your movement and pick it apart and say, here's what is good about it and here's what is bad about it? Why is that a thing? And if you have nothing to hide, then you should be the very ones calling for people to say, yeah, go ahead, look at our movement, tear it apart, let's make it a good movement. Because by putting it under a microscope and letting people criticize it, you can get rid of bad things and keep the good things. I'm just saying, the minute that you are above reproach and you become like a certain Middle Eastern religion where someone speaks up against it and you get mob justice, you're making yourselves look like fools. Talk, yes. Peaceful, yes. Anyways, I'd like to know. I love you guys. I'm tired. Work has been hell. It's been busy. But I love you guys, and I'll always make time for you guys. I'll see you on the next one. We're tearing our country apart, damn it. Let's stop it already. Unity. Isn't that what it's supposed to be about? Unity? How about let's see some?